Okay. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. The forbiddances of the Ihram in Hajj and Umrah, according to the Hanbali school. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Salatu wassalam ala Rasulil Kareem. Rabbana taqabbal minna. Zidna ilma wa hikma huda. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad abduka wa rasulika nabiyil ummi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam taslima. A'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina. Allahumma atina nufusana taqwaha wa zakkiha. Anta khairu man zakkaha, anta waliyuha wa mawlaha. Allahumma hamd shukana. Amma ba'd. All the praises belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're going to return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the Day of Judgment, and that's what this life is about, to earn things for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And may Allah's blessing be upon Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the peace be upon him. And that's the example that we follow. He's the best of creation, and is a good example to follow, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we learn from him and all the things that the Messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala came with. And always we send the salawat on Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Anybody that gives a salat on Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah gives us the salat to that person 10 times. So that's a nice thing about the Hanbali school. Ahmad Ibn Hanbal, they say he's Imam al-Sunnah, Imam that follows the Sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam so much. And these things that the Sheikh, he says, it's all from the hadiths from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that's in the school. So today's topic is the mahdurat al-ihram, mahdurat. And what that is those things that a person they're not allowed to do when they're in the ihram. When a person they go to the hajj and the umrah, when they reach the miqat, the boundary point, they put on their ihram, which is basically the men, they wear the two towels, the two cloths, one on the top, one on the bottom. But there's also other things that the person they can't do while they're in that state of the ihram. And so that's the lesson that we have today, the things that are forbidden when a person they're in the state of that ihram. And what a person they do is they put on the ihram when they do the umrah and when they do the hajj. So when they're in that state of ihram, then they can't do those things. And it comes out when a person they finish their umrah, or when they have 2 states of release in the hajj on the 10th of Dhul Hijjah. So that's when a person they come out of their ihram. So that's what the lesson is about, and the things about the ihram and things that it's not allowed to do while a person they're in ihram. And literally that's what it means. Ihram comes from the word haram, which means forbidden. So a lot of things that are forbidden. Okay, let's start on the first one. Would you like to read the first one, brother? What's your name again, okay? What is it? Ibrahim?
Yeah,
Yes,
Ibrahim.
yes, Ibrahim. I remember from before.
Yeah.
Ibrahim Akhi Kareem. Welcome, inshallah.
Yeah.
You'd like to read the first one?
First and second, shaving and cutting hair.
Yes.
Also besides the hair and cutting nails.
Yes, okay, inshallah. So the first and second is shaving your hair, cutting your hair. When a person in ihram, they cannot cut their hair, they cannot shave their hair, and they cannot cut the nails or shave their nails. That's the thing in the ihram. That's not allowed to do that in the ihram. That's something that's forbidden for a person that's doing the ihram. So, okay, is that clear on that?
Yeah.
Okay, inshallah. So that's not allowed. Shaving the hair is not allowed, and cutting the hair short is not allowed. And the nails, the same thing. You can't trim the nails. And even biting the nails, they say that's something that should be avoided, because it's like, cutting the nails. So those are the first 2 things. 1 and 2 is the hair and the nails. Okay, let's read number 2.
Yes.
Sheikh Omar.
Number 2, for 3 of them is blood sacrifice.
Okay, I think the top one is the top one. They mentioned just those 2 things, shaving and cutting the hair. So it's the head and cutting the nails.
And cutting hairs also besides the head and cutting the nails. Yeah, that's what you said.
Okay.
Like shaving and cutting, are they 2 different?
Yes. Okay, I get it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What this means is if a person they did it 3 times or more, then a person they have to sacrifice an animal. That's what the Sheikh is saying. So if a person that just did it 1 time or 2 times, then they don't have to sacrifice an animal. But if they did it 3 times, 3 times or more, then they have to sacrifice an animal. If they did it just one time or two times, then something else is involved, or maybe it's let go. So we'll see later on what he says about it. But 3 times or more, if a person they do it, then they have to do the expiation for it, which is dam. They say the word dam means blood, and what that means, you have to sacrifice an animal. This was 3 times if you do it. 3 times in the nails, if you've done it 3 times, trim the nails 3 times, then a person, they have to give a sacrifice for it. And what happens is in the mahduratul ihram, the things that are forbidden for the ihram, in the Hanbali school, they have levels of it. They have things that you do, then you have to give a bigger sacrifice, and things that you do that's less, that there's less things that you have to do. And the Sheikh, he talks about that. And over here, there's when they say sacrifice, it's a sheep or a goat that you have to give a sacrifice to. They have another thing that you do if you have that you have to sacrifice a camel, and a camel is or you could do a 7th of a camel, also, or 7th of a cow, also when you do the sacrifice. So that's the what you have to do. If you've done it 3 times or more, that's what that says. Okay, is that clear? Okay, John. Okay, let's go to number 3. Brother Ibrahim, you want to read that?
For everyone less than that is
Mhm.
a mode of food, and it is a qudamah, both adult and food.
Yes. So if a person, they did it once or twice, then what they have to do is they have to give the mud of food to the poor and the needy to make up for it. And the mud is when you put your 2 hands together and you fill it up with food. They call that a mud. And 4 of those is a sa. Okay, that's what they call it, 2 adult handfuls together. So if it's less than that, if a person, they cut their hair once, or they cut it twice, or they trim their nails once or twice, then they give a mud of food that they give for it, and they don't have to do the sacrifice. They don't have to sacrifice a sheep or a goat. That's what the Sheikh is saying. Okay. All right, inshallah. Okay, the mud, he says, a quarter of a sa. That's the measurements that they had in the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They used mud, which is the 2 handfuls, adult handfuls filled up. Sa is 4 of them, and they have also the osak. The osak, which is 60 sa. So those are the quantities that they used to have in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Nowadays, what people they use is they use kilograms. So many of the ulama, they say 1.5 kilograms. Some ulama, they say 2.5 kilograms, to make it easier for people to say like how much is a sa or half a sa, things like that. No, so that's what they make it equivalent. That's the estimation that they have on what you have to give in the food. Okay, so far so good. Okay, inshallah.
Yeah.
All right, inshallah. Let's go to number which one? Number 4.
If one pulls a hair out of his eyes, nothing is on him.
Yes. Okay, that's interesting. I was looking this up. This is interesting. Sometimes an eyelash goes in the eye or a hair goes in the eye. If they take that out of their eye, then nothing is due on the person. That's not trimming the hair, that's not cutting the hair, it's just removing it from the eye. That's what happens. And that's interesting. That maybe that happens to some people sometime. A hair lash goes in their eye. So if they remove that, that's fine for a person to do that, and there's nothing due on the person if they do that, if they remove it from the eye. When I read that, I was a little bit thinking, does that happen often? I don't know. Do you get hair in your eye sometimes? Sometimes you do. Okay. I remember I was little. It happened like once or twice, but I guess it happens very often. That's why the Sheikh, he mentioned it.
Yeah,
The hair goes in there.
Like long eyelash.
Yes, it goes in your eye. The hair.
From
Yes.
my
Yes, and then you got to take it out. Yeah, I remember in my lifetime, I'm quite old. Maybe it just happened to me once or twice in my whole lifetime. The hair goes in there, and then it doesn't come out for some reason. For me, it didn't come out. It just like stuck in there. Then you try to get it out.
Wash it with water.
Right. I'm gonna wash it in water. It'll come out that way. So remember that. Okay, so that's what the Sheikh, he said. If you pull a hair out of your eye, then nothing is due on the person. Okay, inshallah, let's go to number 5.
Number 5, if the hair hangs down and covers his eyes and he cuts it, nothing is on him.
Yes, that's the case also. If the hair is long hair and it's blocking a person's vision, then the person they cut it and so that they can see, then nothing is due on the person for that also. That's what the Sheikh he said, and so we go by that, inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala willing. And I'm sure there was a narration in the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam where somebody that did that, and the Sahaba did that. That's why he mentioned that. If a person they have long hair and is blocking their vision, so they cut it so that they can see okay. Okay, let's go to number 5, Sheikh Omar.
Okay, number 6.
Oh, number 6.
If a nail breaks and he cuts it, nothing on him.
Yes. So what happens is if the nail is like what you call breaks, then he cuts it to keep himself from harming, to preserve the nails, and that's fine. So that's an excuse for it. So those two things are excuses, and the Sheikh he said it's okay to do those things. Because if you break a nail, then you have a portion that's there, and then you really should cut it off. Don't want to leave a nail hanging out that's broken. So that's what the Sheikh he said. So then nothing is due on the person for that. No, because that's what the Sheikh he mentions on that. If there's a broken nail or a hair in the eye, if you do those, there's nothing due on the person. Okay, let's read the next one.
God, where it stick to wear a clothing.
Yes. Okay, the other thing that's not allowed, they say in Arabic they use the word kiyata, and kiyata literally means threaded clothing or stitched clothing. But the thing is, all clothing is stitched. So the thing is, you got to look at what's the definition they mean by stitched. And what that means is things that wrap around that's together. So like, for example, on your arm, if you have a shirt, it wraps around completely, that's not allowed. And on your legs, if you have the pants, it's wrapped around completely, that's not allowed. That's what they mean by stitched together. And also, even the cloth on the bottom, what happens is it has to be open like a towel. If you have the one that's together, like a girdle or a skirt or something like that, that's not allowed. So all those things are not allowed. The ones that are together that wraps around something, whether it wraps around the arms or wraps around the legs or wraps around the body and it's together, then those are not allowed. So that's what they mean by khiyata, by stitched together on the term, and that's not allowed to wear those things. So if a person if they're in ihram, they don't wear shirts, they don't wear pants, they don't wear underwear, they don't wear coats. What else do people wear? They don't wear undershirts. They have those two clothing, the izar on the bottom and the ridha on the top. Those two cloths that they wrap around them, and they can't wear what's called the skirt they have. Sometimes the men they have them also, and what it is, it's complete. It's like a complete circle stitched together. You can't use those either. But if it's open, then the person they can do it. They can wear that. Okay, inshallah. So far so good. Okay, let's go to the next one.
If one does not find a lower garment
Mm-hmm.
and wears trousers, no expedition on him.
Yes. So this is based on the hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So people, what they do is they have the izar, the lower garment, but if a person they're unable to find one or unable to get one, then they have an excuse that they can wear pants. That's basically what the Sheikh is saying. And this is what happened in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. People, they were supposed to do that, but some people they were unable to do it. So then they have an excuse to wear pants, and because they don't have the capability to find the lower garment. Nowadays it's very easy. Like if you go to places, they have a lot of stores that sell them, so a person they can easily find them, inshallah. And also nowadays, in today's day and age, the clothes are very cheap. Back then the clothes were very expensive, where people they only had two sets of clothing, one that they wear every day, and the other one they would wear on special occasions. That's all that people they had. Nowadays you see people that have whole closet fulls of clothing, hundreds of pants and hundreds of shirts, and so now it's a different story nowadays, that you find. Usually people, they can always find the clothing. If not, people they can give the person the clothing quite easily, to do hajj or the umrah. Hopefully they can do that, inshallah. But anyway, if a person they can't find the lower garment, they can't find that, then the pants is sufficient. The person they can wear the pants. Okay, let's go to the next one.
Or does not find sandals and wear socks, no expiation on them.
Yes. So the other thing is that it's not allowed to wear socks and shoes and things like that. You have to wear sandals. But if a person they can't find the sandals, then they can wear the socks, and that's allowed because a person they don't have sandals, so it's allowed for them to wear the leather socks, the kufs. Okay, and all right. Does he mention here? All right. Okay. The other thing is some of the ulama, they say that it should be like below the ankles, the socks that you have, not the long socks that go all the way to the top. That's the view of some of the ulama, that it goes below the ankle. That's what it says. But normally speaking, when you're in ihram, you have to wear sandals, not the socks. No. Okay, inshallah. Let's read the next one, Sheikh Omar. I think on number 10.
Fourth, covering the head and ears.
Yes. So also in the ihram, a person they can't wear head coverings, they can't wear kufis, they can't wear turbans, they can't wear amamas, they can't wear caps. All those things is not allowed, and they can't wear hoods either. All those things are not allowed in the ihram. You have to leave your head uncovered, and this is for the men, of course. Not for the women. They wear the scarf. And for the women, the ihram, I don't know if he's going to mention it later on, they wear their normal clothing, they just don't wear gloves and they don't wear the niqab. So those are the things for the women. So the head covering is not allowed either. You have to leave your head uncovered. Okay, read number 11.
Fifth, perfume scent.
Yes.
His body and his clothes.
Yes. So a person, they can't put scent on the ihram clothing or on their body once they're in the state of ihram. And what happens, but before a person they go into ihram, then it's recommended to put perfume on your body, and then go into ihram, and then you don't put perfume on until you're out of the ihram after that. So that's what they say. So it's not allowed to put perfume or scent on your clothes or your body in the state of ihram. And some of the ulama, they talked about soap. Sometimes the soap is scented soap, so they had an issue about that. They said if you use scented soap, it's like the same thing as putting perfume on you, so don't use a scented soap. But then some of the ulama, they said it's not perfume, so it's fine to use soap, even if there is a scent on it. But that's the thing to bear in mind, it's not allowed to put the perfume and the scents on a person. Okay, let's go to the next one, inshallah. Number 12. Sheikh Omar, I'll read number 12.
Killing, hunting for prey.
Okay, so the other thing that's not allowed if a person there in ihram is to hunt animals. It's not allowed to hunt the animals, that's forbidden. And it's also not allowed to tell somebody to hunt an animal on behalf of the person, send somebody out to hunt an animal. And in Arabic, the word for it, the word for it is sayd. Sayd is hunting. And what that means is, like, sometimes they have deer over there, so you can't go and hunt the deer while in ihram. Even they have pigeons, and so you can't go and shoot those pigeons and catch those pigeons. That's not allowed either. And other animals that are there in the desert, lizards also, those things. So you can't do the hunting while you're in the ihram. Okay, all right, okay. Okay, Sheikh, Brother Ibrahim, you'll read number 13.
That is for allowed wild animals. As for domesticated animals, it is not forbidden.
Yes. So if a person, they have like sheep or cows or goat or camels, then it's fine for them to slaughter them. That's what the Sheikh is saying. So he's talking about the wild animals that are running in the land and in the desert and things like that. It's not allowed to hunt them. So, but if you have a domesticated animal and you slaughter it, that's not considered hunting. So he said that that's fine if a person they have, the animals that they have that they're that's domesticated. The chickens, if they have them and they slaughter them, that's fine. The goats, they slaughter them, that's fine. The camels, cows, if they do the nahr, that's fine. Just hunting animals or sending somebody out to go hunting, that's not allowed in the state of Ihram, in the state of that forbidden state. Okay, let's do number 14. Sheikh Omar, you mentioned that?
As for fishing, it is allowed.
Yes, because this is mentioned in the Quran. It's not allowed for hunting land animals, and they use the same word sayd for sea animals. But in English, you'd say fishing. If you hunt, if you go in the water and you get the animals from there, they say it's fishing. Even if you get crabs and things like that, that's called fishing. Fishing for crabs, that's a term that they use. So the things in the water, it's allowed to do that in the ihram. Just the land animals, it's not allowed. And this is an ayah mentioned in the Quran, Hurima alaykum saydul bari, and things like that. So it's allowed on the saydul bahri, the hunting or fishing for animals that live in the water. That's allowed in the state of Ihram. It's not forbidden. And what happens is that could happen if a person, they go there and they start the umrah or the hajj, they put on their ihram clothing, and it's allowed for them to leave. They can go to a different city or they can go back home, but they might still be in a state of ihram. So in that state of ihram, a person, they can go fishing, that's fine. But just they can't go hunting, That's the issue that comes up. Okay, inshallah, so that's what that's mentioned in the Quran. The land animals, the water animals are allowed, land animals are not allowed. Okay, let's go to the next one, we're on number 15.
7. Marriage contract is forbidden.
Yes, so that's the most important thing to stay away from. The marriage and the marriage contract, that's not allowed to have the marriage contract. When a person, they're in ihram, it's not allowed to have the sexual relation in the ihram. So both of those are forbidden. Okay. Okay, good. Then number 16 is a good point. Read that one. Number 16, Sheikh Omar.
There is no expediation for it.
Yes. So if a person, if they do the sexual relation, then that voids the hajj. The hajj is voided, and you can't make up for it. All the other things mentioned previously, the hunting and cutting the hair and wearing the clothing, you can make up for it, and your hajj is still valid. But if you have the sexual relation, you have the sex, while you're in ihram, in the hajj, then your hajj is void, completely void. It doesn't count. You have to do the hajj again. So that's what the Shaykh mentioned. So it's very serious. A person should avoid it. So the question comes up. Some people are thinking that who's crazy going to have sex while they're over there in hajj? But the Shaykh mentioned. One of the things that the Shaykh said that what happens is people that stay over there, they stay in a tent. And back in the old days, the tent was very small, and just the husband and the wife would be in the tent. And what happens when the person they're there, nobody else is around, then the person, they might be filled with desire and say, okay, let me have the sexual relation with my wife. That's a no-no. If you do that, that's it. Hajj is void. Cancel the hajj. And you have to do the other expiations for it. I think he's going to talk about that later on. You have to slaughter a camel and finish your hajj and do it again next year. And the hajj is void if you do that. So you have to avoid the sexual relation. Okay, that's the most serious thing that's there. So absolutely do not do that. And also the marriage contract. The marriage contract, what that does is it allows a person to have the sexual relation. So it's like the same thing as having the sexual relation. Okay, inshallah. Let's go to the next one. Which one are now? Number 17.
8. Continue was unbesides private.
Yes. Okay, the other thing is person, they should not touch their wife on things besides a sexual relation. A person should avoid that in the state of ihram. Okay, that's the other thing that Sheikh mentioned. And for two reasons: one, that it will lead to the desire in the person. If a person, they touch their wife, then it could lead to having the sexual relation, and you have the sex, then your hajj is void. And also that's something to avoid as well, in the ihram as well, to have any intimacy, with one's wife. All right, inshallah, let's go to number 18.
If one ejaculates from it, on him is a camel.
Mm-hmm.
If not, on him is a sheep, and the hajj is correct.
Yes. So this is talking about the previous one. If they touch their wife not in the private area, so if the person, they ended up the semen coming out. I put some stars on there because I didn't want to be like explicit over here. Maybe there's some won't be explicit in the terms. So if they have the semen, the money that comes out, then what happens is they have to slaughter a camel to make up for it. If they touch their wife, not in a private area, but the other areas. And if not, if they do that, then a person, they have to slaughter a sheep. If they did that. And the other thing about it, the hajj is still correct. It doesn't invalidate the hajj. So that's a good news. If a person, they touch their wife, in other areas besides the private part, and then the person, they end up the semen coming out, then the hajj is not void, but they have to give a camel in expiation, and if not, they have to give a sheep in expiation, and the hajj is still correct. Alhamdulillah. Okay, so now he talks about more advanced concepts on the ihram of the forbiddances of the ihram. All right, let's go to number 21. Yes, this is very serious. If a person, they have sexual relation in a private area, farj that they say, then that voids the hajj. So then all those things are due. Number 22, did you read that one, Sheikh Ibrahim?
If before the first ihram is released, the hajj is void.
Yes. Okay, so what happens is you have two states of ihram. You have the first release of ihram and the second release of ihram when you do the hajj. And what happens is on the 10th of Dhul Hijjah, there's several things that you have to do. If you do 3 of those 4 things, in other words, everything except doing the tawaf, then you can take off your ihram, and everything is allowed for you except for having the sexual relation. All right, so that's what they mean by it, the 2 states of ihram. Before that, where you're completely forbidden everything, and after that. So he said if it is before that, before the first release of the ihram, then your hajj is void. If it was after that, where you're still in minor ihram, where everything is allowed except the sexual relation, then your hajj is still valid. That's the good news about that, if it was after that. Is that clear on that point? Is that clear on the 2 different states of release? Because what happens is people, they have the rituals in the hajj, and then on the 9th they have to be in Arafat. Then the 10th, they go to Mina, and they have to stone the big jamarat, and they have to, if they have to do a sacrifice, they have to do a sacrifice. They have to cut or shave their hair, and they have to do the tawaf around the Kaaba. They could delay that to later. So if they've done all those things except the tawaf, usually people, they leave the tawaf out, because the tawaf, you have to go all the way to Mecca, and it's so crowded, so they leave that to the end. So if you've done all the other things that are there, then you can take off your ihram, and everything is allowed, but you can't have sexual relation with your wife at that point. That's still forbidden for you until you've done all the things. Then when you do the tawaf, then you can have the sexual relation. But so that's what he's saying. If it was before that point, when you're still in the major ihram, then your hajj is void, canceled. There's no making up for it. It doesn't count. And if it's your obligatory hajj of your lifetime, it doesn't count. You haven't fulfilled that obligation. So it's very serious now. Okay, then what's the next one? Number 23. Sheikh Omar, you can read number 23.
Having to continue the rest of hajj after corruption.
Yes. Even though the hajj is void and cancelled, doesn't count, you still have to finish the hajj. But it doesn't count for you. So that's a requirement, on that, if you had the sexual relation in the privates. Right? Number 24, Brother Ibrahim.
And perform hajj next year.
Yes. Then what you have to do is you have to repeat the Hajj the following year. That's what's mentioned in the books of Ilm. Now that Hajj is void, so then what you have to do is you have to sacrifice a camel and finish the Hajj and repeat the Hajj next year. All those things. And number 25, you read that, Sheikh Omar?
On the one that did check is a camel.
Yes, that's what I just mentioned here. They have to sacrifice a camel. And what happens is a camel is so much more expensive than a sheep. And especially if you look in the time of Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, back then the sheep was like the size of chickens that you have today. So it's so small, you know. Then when you look at a camel, you see how big a camel is, so huge. You know, that's what they have. And they say that a camel is equivalent to 7 sheep. So a person, you know, when they have to sacrifice a sheep, they could do 1/7 of a camel. So it's so expensive, you know, to do a sheep, and that's required if a person they have the sexual sex with their wife before the first ihram. They have to give a camel. All those things mentioned there on the points from 22 to 25. They have to the Hajj is void. They have to complete the Hajj. They have to repeat the Hajj next year, and they have to give a camel and sacrifice. So it's so serious. So that's something that person make sure that they don't do that, to have the sexual relation. Okay, let's go to number 26. To read it, Sheikh Ibrahim.
If it was after the first ihram release, then on him is a sheep.
The sheep, okay. So in that case, if it was after the first release of the ihram, when they've done 3 of the 4 things or 2 of the 3 things on the 10th, then they can release their ihram. And if it was after that, a person, they don't have to give a camel in sacrifice. They just give a sheep in sacrifice, you know, to make up for it. And that's much less expensive and less valuable to do that. The other thing is the Hajj is still valid if it was after the first release of Ihram. So that's a good news. Okay, so read number 20, which we're on 27.
And start ihram at Tanim
Mm-hmm.
to do the circumambulation tawaf in the state of ihram. The hajj is not void if it was after the first release.
Yes. Okay, inshallah. So the Sheikh is saying that what happens is if a person that had the sexual relation after the first release of the ihram, then a person they have to go to Tanim, which is Masjid Aisha, and put on their ihram again, and go around the Kaaba. Then they can release the ihram. That's what the Sheikh is saying. No. Okay, inshallah. That's interesting. Inshallah, no. What happens is when you start to Hajj, you have to go to the Miqat, boundary points, which is mentioned, Yalamlam and Dhul Hulayfa and Dhatil Irq and things like that, and that's outside. What happens is when you do the Umrah, you have a boundary point which is closer to Mecca, and that's the Tanim and Masjid Aisha. And that's what Prophet Muhammad ﷺ told Aisha to do when she went for the Hajj. Because what happened is she just did the Hajj, she didn't do an Umrah, and she wanted to do the Umrah also. So Prophet Muhammad ﷺ told her to go with her brother Abdul Rahman to the place of Tanim, and then start the Ihram and do the Umrah from over there. So the same thing he's saying over here. The person, they have to go to that place there, and then put on their to have their Ihram on at that point, and do the Tawaf, the final Tawaf that you have to do for the Hajj, the Tawaf al-Ifadah. All right, inshallah. Okay, let's read number 28, Brother Ibrahim. Yes. So this is talking about the Umrah, not the Hajj. If a person, they're going and doing the Umrah, usually people, they don't have the sexual relation Umrah because they do everything immediately. You know, they start the Umrah, then they go to immediately to Mecca, or to the Kaaba, to Masjid Haram, do the Tawaf and do the Sa'i, and then cut their hair, they're done.
Like, how long does it take?
They can do it in a couple hours. You know? It doesn't take that long, you know.
So like, if you go to Makkah like 8 days, can you do each day, or it used to be once?
Well, it's not recommended to do more than one Umrah. Now, a lot of people they do it, but the ulama they say that it's detested to do more than one umrah.
Yeah, it is
It's something
detested.
that's not recommended. You do one umrah per trip. That's what's recommended to do, not to do more. It's recommended to do a lot of tawafs to go around the Kaaba many times. That's recommended, but the whole umrahs is just recommended to do one of them. But if a person they're going to do their second umrah, then what they do is they go to Masjid Aisha or Tanim, then they put on their ihram, and then they do the rituals for the umrah again.
Sir, so now the length of the umrah, it depends on the tawaf, like how long you spend on the tawaf. People can spend different times, right?
Yes, I mean, yeah, that's true. The tawaf is going around the Kaaba. If you're close by to it, then you can do it fairly quickly. But most people, what they do is they do it a little bit further away, so it takes longer, to do it. But you have to do the sa'i also, go between Safa and Marwa as well. So all those things. So you can do it in a couple hours if you go. Maybe if you want to be like super fast, maybe you can do everything in an hour. Maybe you can do that. No, perhaps no. But usually it takes a few hours to do it. But it's not like the Hajj. The Hajj you have to spend there at least 4 days at least. At least 3 days at least. At least 4 days. I'm sorry. He's got to be there on the 9th, 10th, and then at least 2 more days after. So it takes 4 days, and it has to be that specific date for the Hajj. The Umrah you can do any time. And the thing is, if you're doing the Umrah and you put on the Ihram for Umrah, and you had the sexual relation, then your Umrah is void. It doesn't count. All right, that's what the Sheikh is saying there. Okay, inshallah, read number 29.
The rituals are not corrupted besides its sexual relations.
Yes. So what happens is if a person, the other things that they did that was forbidden for the Ihram, it doesn't corrupt the Hajj or the Umrah. Just the sexual relation, it voids it. That's the thing to bear in mind. The other things a person, what they could do is they could do the expiation for it, like you said, to feed a sa or half a sa, to feed a poor person, or the person they can give a sacrifice, or they can fast also. That's what I mentioned. And they can make up for those mistakes that they did. And for the hunting animal, a person, what they have to do is there's another lesson on the expiation and what you have to do if you did the other things. This is just saying what things are forbidden. Then the other lesson, the other video will have on how to expiate. So it talks about that. The hunting animal, basically, you have to give an animal that's similar to it in sadaqah to make up for the hunting animal. But all these things that are mentioned here, if a person they do it, their umrah is not corrupted and their hajj is not corrupted. Only the sexual relation and the marriage contract, is what he says that corrupts the hajj and the umrah. Okay, inshallah, let's read number 30.
The woman is like Ahmad, except she puts ihram in her state and wears lips to wear the clothes.
Yes. So for the women, she wears the stitched clothing, and she wears a hijab. She wears the regular clothing. All the things that normally speaking is allowed for her. The only thing that she doesn't wear is the gloves and the niqab. So some people they ask, what should she do if she can't wear the niqab and the gloves, and she follows the opinion that you have to keep those covered in front of men. So they say, the ulama, they say that what she should do is the hijab that she has, she just extends it and covers her face when men are around. And likewise, the sleeves that she has, she makes it longer, like extend it and cover her hands, when the men are around. Because the woman is allowed to wear her stitched clothing and everything, just the gloves and the niqab is not allowed. That's what's mentioned in the books of it. Okay, inshallah. Okay, let's stop over here. Subhanallah wa bihamdi. Let's go to question and answer. Do you have any questions, Sheikh Ibrahim? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think
It's good? Okay. Just keep in mind not to have the sexual relation if you go with your wife. Make sure you stay away from that. The other things, a lot of people, they make mistakes and, they can make up for it afterwards. Just the sexual relation. Keep that in mind, inshallah. Yes, Sheikh Omar, did you have any questions or comments?
Number 26, I'm confused a little bit. If it was after the first ihram release, then on him is a sheep. What does that mean? It was the first ihram release.
Okay, what happens is on the 10th of Dhul Hijjah, you have to do 3 different things or 4 different things. And what happens is you can remove your ihram before you complete all the things there. And usually people, what they do is they do everything except doing the tawaf around the Kaaba. So they can take off the ihram when you've done 3 of the 4 things or 2 of the 3 things that you have to do on the 10th. And they call that the first release. And what you can do is, if you're removed from the first release, you can do everything except have sexual relation with your wife. That's not allowed. So what happens is, he's talking about if a person that had the sexual relation before the first release or after the first release. If it was after the first release, then you just give a sheep as an expiation, not a camel, an expiation, and your hajj is still valid. Is that clear? Is that clear on the 2 releases of the ihram?
Before I understand, but after.
Yes.
So I was thinking that like you don't have to do any. You don't have to engage with your wife anytime while you are hajj. That's not the case.
No. You can have it after the second release. After the full release, you can have sexual relation with your wife. It's allowed.
Okay, so like, which means like
When you've done all the 4 things on the 10th of Dhul Hijjah, or all three things that you have to do. And those things, you have to stone the big jamarat, Jamarat al-Aqaba, and you have to cut or shave your hair. And if you've done the Hajj Tamattu, you have to do the sacrifice also. And the last thing that people usually do is do the tawaf around the Kaaba, the tawaf of the Hajj or tawaf al-Ifada. So those are the 4 things. So if you've done 3 of those 4 things, then you can take off your ihram, but still you can't have sexual relation with your wife. That forbiddance is still there. So you're like in a minor ihram. Once you've done all 4 things, then you're completely free. You can have the sexual relation with your wife after that.
Okay, and those 4 things, you say that
Cutting the hair also is one of them, or shaving the hair.
So stoning.
Yes, owning the big pillar.
The big, and then cutting your hair.
Yes, or shaving it.
Or shaving it.
Yes.
And also, like if you do
Yes.
Hajj,
Tamattu or Kiran, then you have to sacrifice an animal. So they call that the hadi.
So Tamattu and or Hajj.
Yes. Kiran, when you do the umrah beforehand, then you have to sacrifice an animal. They call that the hadi. And the last thing is to go around the Kaaba 7 times. Not
So after you do those 4 things,
Yes.
or 3 of the 4.
If you do 3 of the 4, then you can take off your ihram,
But
and
you don't
all the things are allowed except the sexual relation.
Okay.
The minor, let's call that the minor
So you
ihram.
have to complete the 4
Yes.
things in order to engage with
Yes.
your wife.
Once you've done all 4 of them, then you're out of ihram. You can do everything, including the sexual relation.
But don't you have to stay like on the
Yes.
territory?
Yes, I mean, you stay there, but you're not in a state of ihram. You're in a state of normal clothing and things like that. You can do everything.
So the Hajj, the Tawaf al-Wada, then the final Tawaf, the goodbye Tawaf is not part of that, right? Like,
No, you could do the goodbye. You do the goodbye tawaf with your regular clothes. You don't do it in ihram. Ihram is just a state that you are. So you do part of your hajj not in a state of ihram, and the rest of it in a state of ihram. So you have to be there on the 9th, which is on Yom al-Arafat. So you'll be in the ihram on the 9th. And then the next day, on the 10th, once you've done 3 of the 4 things or 2 of the 3 things, then you can take off your ihram and everything is allowed except the sexual relation. Then once you've done the 4 things, which is going around the Kaaba, is usually the last thing that they do, then you can take off your ihram completely and everything's allowed to do. But you have to stay there 2 more days or 3 more days after that. But you can stay in your regular clothing and do everything except, you can do everything on that, like you normally, that you're there on the normal time, because you're not in ihram anymore. You finish your ihram, but you're still in the hajj, so you have to complete the things for the hajj.
Jazakallah khairan.
Jazakallah khair. Alhamdulillah. I should maybe explain